So I want to revisit a case that I have talked about before. I've done an interview on, and I'm going to do another interview about this case. But this is a case that I'm extremely connected to, not for any personal reason other than this is just one of the first cases that I really looked into and got connected with when I first started this TikTok. And so this case has kind of grown with me. And it is the death of Michael Blake Campbell. Now, like I said, I have done videos about this case before. If you don't know, this is a case of a young man who died in a home explosion in 2019. And for a long time, this case was unsolved, or actually it was listed as an accidental death for a long time. But just recently, the new sheriff in the county decided to file some charges in the case. Here's the thing. Out of all the words that I could possibly use to describe this case or talk about this case, they are not as good as the words of the Arkansas Justice Project. The Arkansas Justice Project recently posted an article about this case, and I feel like it's as eloquent and gets to the point better than anything that I could have ever done. And so I want to share this article with you. I'm going to post the link to the article in my link tree if you want to check it out yourself. But if not, I'm just going to read it to you. And again, this is not anything that I wrote. This is Arkansas Justice Project. Michael Blake Campbell died in a house explosion June 14th, 2019. He was just 19 years old at the time of his death and a father to one child with another baby on the way. Campbell was deeply loved by his family and is deeply missed. His mother and father have been extremely vocal over the years about the lack of investigation into their son's murder. There was one individual present at the time of the explosion, and his name is Demarius James. James placed himself at the home at the time of the explosion in an interview with Kate 8 at the end of June in 2019. He did not indicate that anyone else was present at the home during the explosion. The home, located at 7293 Highway 141 North in Beech Grove, was a stone house and just one of several properties owned by Campbell's mom and stepfather. Greene County wants you to believe that Campbell's stepfather hired him to burn the house because someone stole the wiring out of the home. They say they are going to prove this case with witnesses who claim there was some sort of plan to burn the home for insurance money. It wasn't until we began looking into these witnesses that we realized something wasn't right. I seen a flash from the corner of my eye. I jumped out of the truck, and by the time I got inside the house, inside the porch part, there was smoke everywhere. I'm sorry that this happened. I wish that there was something I could have done about it, but I couldn't do nothing about it. That was Demarius James and what he told to a Kate 8 reporter in 2019. Flash forward to 2023, and suddenly Demarius James's story has changed. He now claims that Blake's stepfather paid them to burn the home down. Seems awfully convenient given that he was the only person at the scene, stated that he saw the explosion, and then presented himself to Kate 8 covered in bandages. If, and that's a huge if, for reasons we will get into, if Demarius James was telling the truth this time, he has implicated himself in an arson at the very least. Demarius James is no saint. He is a convicted abuser. He was convicted of domestic battery in 2016. He was sentenced to 12 months suspended. In 2018, he was arrested again, this time for felony domestic battery, misdemeanor domestic battery, and interference with emergency communications. He pleaded guilty to the felony and was sentenced to 36 months in the Arkansas Department of Corrections with 140 days jail credit and an additional 84 months suspended. In February of 2021, James pistol whipped a man, causing him to fall and hit his head on a countertop and lose consciousness. While the victim was on the ground, James continued to kick him. The victim suffered lacerations to his face and ears and complained of abdominal pain. A witness at the scene also informed officers that he, being Demarius James, had given them a firearm before police arrived and asked them to hide it in their vehicle. Police recovered the firearm from that vehicle. The victim went to the ER twice due to the beating, the second time due to internal bleeding issues. A petition for revocation was filed in March of 2021 due to these new charges, which consisted of battery second degree, a felony, and possession of a firearm by certain persons, another felony. And by April, he was allowed to plead out to a misdemeanor charge of domestic battery and a misdemeanor charge of possessing an instrument of crime. His sentence on that case was 12 months probation plus 75 days in the county jail with credit for 75 days served. Now he's been charged in yet another felony case where he is alleged to have shot at his ex-girlfriend with her child in the home. He has been charged with aggravated assault on a family or household member, possession of a firearm by certain persons, and endangering the welfare of a minor. There are also several enhancements because he is considered a habitual felon, as he has been convicted of more than 4 felonies previously, as well as the fact that he committed this aggravated assault in front of a child. Now, this violent abuser is the case's star witness against Blake's stepfather, a man that has never even spoken with Demarius James. Jeff Carter has absolutely zero criminal history and is a well-respected member of his community. Given the fact that Blake's family has been so outspoken about their disappointment with Greene County and their lack of any sense of urgency in their son's murder investigation, it feels a whole lot like these charges are intended to bully, intimidate, and harass the Carters into submission. But why would Demarius James apologize to the family if he believed they were responsible for Blake's death? Why hasn't James been charged with arson or conspiracy to commit insurance fraud? Has he been given a deal to testify against the Carters? Why did Demarius James get a text message from Campbell's Facebook Messenger account after his death? And who sent that message? What if I told you that it was the state's other witness? Jeffrey Carter, Blake's stepfather, has been charged with negligent homicide, insurance fraud, and arson in Greene County. So what does it take to get a conviction? Forensic evidence? Witness statements? No. All it takes to get a conviction is a good story. We have seen this time and time again. Juries want to believe the story that makes sense to them. Prosecutors can interpret evidence any way they choose to, and their opinions sway juries. So, in spite of the fact that there is no forensic evidence tying Carter to the scene, no cell data evidence proving any type of conspiracy with Blake, and witnesses involved that have clear reason to lie, this prosecutor has chosen to file these charges and pursue this family instead of the violent felon that was at the scene when Blake was killed and had to have been within reach of the fire to become injured. A violent felon with a clear MO who likes to pistol whip people and then beat them in the head when they are down. Take into account that the other witness was communicating with Demarius James by Facebook after his death. This case stinks. This case is a miscarriage of justice at best and severe corruption at worst. It is up to us as Arkansans to stand up and speak when prosecutors abuse their power and go after innocent victims simply for daring to demand justice for the murder of their child. Campbell deserves true justice. He deserves a competent investigation into his murder. He deserves charges brought against the only man present at the scene of his death. He deserves investigators that work toward the truth, not just what makes them look good after years of non-action on this case. Again, that article was not written by me. Those are not my words. That is the Arkansas Justice Project. I wholeheartedly agree. I just don't want to take credit for something that I didn't write. I mean, looking at the things that we know, Demarius James did go on Kate Aid and do an interview. He did so with his entire face wrapped in gauze, where not even his mouth was showing. He did so wrapped up like a mummy after his mother had posted to Facebook how well he was healing, where his face wasn't covered in gauze. It just doesn't really make any sense. It doesn't make any sense that Demarius James had gasoline on the bottom of his shoes from this house fire, this explosion, but he wasn't connected to it and the gas didn't burn up. It really doesn't make any sense to me, and it never has. So what really happened that day? What really happened in that house fire? Why were Blake Campbell and Demarius James at that house at all? I don't know. Why is Blake Campbell not alive? I couldn't tell you. but I could tell you that Demarius James has